So as I mentioned to you earlier, that this lecture is going to be a little bit schizophrenic. Too great. So part of this lecture will be the regular lecture, the regular curriculum lecture. Part of it will be from the In Search, because I've not made it a secret that there are places where I disagree with the curriculum, but in this one, I think it's not so much that I disagree with it, I do in parts, but I don't think it's getting at the most important thing. So we'll do the curriculum and you can fill in your blanks. But then I would invite you, when I'm saying things that aren't part of your blanks that interest you or that catch your ear, to just jot something down on your in your book about that. So the first thing we're going to do is read the whole passage, and then we'll get through whatever we can today and continue tomorrow. This is actually from the In Search. This is the introduction, actually, to this lesson. So this is what I wrote. In John 7-9, we find Jesus at another Jewish festival. Much of this narrative occurs in and around the Feast of Tabernacles. So I'm going to I'm telling you a little bit about the Feast of Tabernacles. It's also called the Feast of Booths. It's the same if you hear Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Booths, same Jewish holiday. So this Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Booths, is a Jewish holiday celebrating the harvest of grapes and olives. The feast takes place in September or October. So they have a lunar calendar. And so, for example, we have some holidays that are always the same day. Christmas is always on December 25, right, 25th. It's never any other time. But is Easter always the same day? No, it depends, and that's based on the lunar calendar. So that is true of the Jewish feasts as well. And our celebration of Easter happens very close to the Jewish Passover, right? Because Jesus, on the eve of the Passover, was crucified. So this feast of the Feast of Booths or Feast of Tabernacles is in sometime in late September or early October. Because these crops, meaning grapes and olives, needed protection, farmers would build huts in the field during the harvest so that they could be close by to take care of the crops. In recognition of this fact, and as a reminder of Israel's desert wandering, people coming to Jerusalem for the feast would build makeshift huts to live in for the week. So these booths, or these tabernacles, gave the feast its name. So not only were the farmers out in the field living in little huts, the congregants that came from other parts of Israel made huts to stay in during the feast as well. Two of the primary features of the feast were the water drawing ritual and the lamp lighting ritual. So water and light. Jesus is going to use this occasion and these rituals specifically to reveal to the crowds who he is, that he is the source of living water and the light of the world. So everything about this what we're about to talk about is tied to this Feast of the Booths, and that's why I read this introduction to you. So now let's read the passage. After this, Jesus went about in Galilee. What do we know about those words, after this? There's what?
And there's some.
Yeah, but there's some time that's elapsed. It's not the next day. It's not the next week. We don't know how much time has elapsed, but some time has elapsed. So after this, Jesus went about in Galilee. He would not go about in Judea because the Jews were seeking to kill him. Now, the Jews' feast of the booths was at hand, was near. So his brothers said to him, "Leave here and go to Judea, and your disciples also may see the works you are doing. For no one works in secret if he seeks to be known openly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world." For not even his brothers believed in him. So when he's talking about his disciples, he's saying the people who believe in him, not just the 12, but other people too. Go to the people who believe in you in Jerusalem and show them all the crazy things you can do. But it tells us at the end, they didn't believe in him. So they're probably trash talking. Brothers tend to do that. Jesus said to them, "My time has not yet come, but your time is always here. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me because I testify about it that its works are evil. You go up to the feast. I'm not going up to the feast, for my time has not yet fully come." After saying this, he remained in Galilee. But after his brothers had gone up to the feast, then he also went up, not publicly, but in private. The Jews were looking for him at the feast and saying, "Where is he?" And there was much muttering about him again among the people. While people said he is a good man, others said, "No, he is leading the people astray." Yet for fear of the Jews, no one spoke openly of him. About the middle of the feast, Jesus went up into the temple and began teaching. The Jews therefore marveled, saying, "How is it that this man has learning when he has never studied? He's never had a rabbi teach him." So Jesus answered them, "My teaching is not mine, but it is his who sent me. If anyone's will is to do God's will, he will know whether the teaching is from God or whether I am speaking on my own authority. The one who speaks on his own authority seeks his own glory, but the one who seeks the glory of him who sent him is true, and in him there is no falsehood. Has not Moses given you the law? Yet none of you keeps the law. Why do you seek to kill me?" The crowd answered, "You have a demon who is seeking to kill you." Jesus answered them, "I did one work, and you all marvel at it. Moses gave you circumcision, not that it is from Moses, but from the fathers. And you circumcise a man on the Sabbath. If on the Sabbath a man receives circumcision so that the law of Moses may not be broken, are you angry with me because on the Sabbath I made a man's whole body well? Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment." So what he's saying here is that if you can do circumcision on the Sabbath, and they did do circumcision on the Sabbath, it was seen as a purifying rite, and saying, "Well, why can't I purify someone on the Sabbath if you do that?" Some of the people of Jerusalem therefore said, "Is not this the man whom they seek to kill? And here he is speaking openly, and they say nothing to him? Can it be that the authorities really know that this is the Christ? But we know where this man comes from, and when the Christ appears, no one will know where he comes from." So Jesus proclaimed as he taught in the temple, "You know me," and I think this is a question, but there's not punctuation mark in the original, but I think this should be a question. "You know me, and you know where I come from, but I have not come of my own." Hi.
I was sent to come with
So they were seeking to arrest him, but no one laid a hand on him because his hour had not yet come. Yet many of the people believed in him. They said, "When the Christ appears, will he do more signs than this man has done?" So it's talking about, well, first of all, there's this lapse of time. We don't know exactly how much, but we know after this, there is the Feast of Booths. And we know that it's late September or early October. And it can be called, it has two names. It goes by two names. You can use either one, the Feast of Booths or the Feast of Tabernacles. But beyond that, I'm not going to venture anything more. about that. Now, the curriculum talks about why he stayed out of the limelight. He tells his brothers, "You go to the feast. I'm not going to the feast," and stay out of the. He's staying out of the limelight. Most of these, I think, are probably not true, and also not very helpful. So the summer temperatures, it was really hot. Maybe he didn't want it to be in the hot. It was always hot in his room. He's been in hot weather before. Plus, that wouldn't be very manly if he wasn't willing to sweat a little bit. So I don't think that has anything to do with it. The Pharisees are growing more antagonistic. That is true, and that is the only one of these that is mentioned in the Bible. I also think that's not the reason. But that is true. People are excited about making him king. That's true, but that's not mentioned anywhere in this passage. Herod is growing suspicious. That is true, but it's not mentioned. Christ needed rest. Everybody needs rest, right? But it's not in here. Christ needed time to train his disciples. He did train his disciples, but that's not mentioned in here. So I'm not going to go beyond the text and make something up. But I will tell you what I believe the text says. Because the curriculum's take is the curriculum. So I'm going to read this first and then talk about the curriculum. After this, Jesus went about in Galilee. He would not go about in Judea because the Jews were seeking to kill him. Now the Jews' feast of the booths was at hand. So his brothers said to him, "Leave here and go to Judea, and that your disciples may see the works you do. For no one works in secret if he seeks to be known openly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world, for not even his brothers believed in him." So they're taunting him. So Jesus isn't fearful to go to the feast, the curriculum is maybe even being it or making it look like maybe he's even being dishonest, because he eventually does go to the feast. So why does he say, "I'm not going to the feast," if he eventually does go to the feast? The Greek here is important. To understand the Greek here is important. We've seen this word several times in our curriculum. This hour. Okay, so there are two words for time. One is hour, hora. One is time, kairos. Always, when you see hora in John, it's saying that Jesus' time to be sacrificed for the sins of the world has not yet come. Time just means, kairos just means time. So when Jesus says, "My hour has not yet come," he's saying it's not time for me to die yet. But in this passage, the word isn't time, isn't hora. It's kairos. Because he does eventually go to the feast, right? When he says to his brothers, "It's not my time yet," he's saying, it's not my kairos yet. And then he says, "Your time is always here." What he's saying is, it's not my time to go to the feast. You can go whenever you want. You aren't on God's timetable. I'm on God's timetable. It's not my time to go to the feast. He's just saying he's not. Now, we don't know why. So he's just saying, my time to go to the feast hasn't gone, and it hasn't come. And remember that Jesus always did what the Father asked him to do when the Father asked him to do it. So for reasons that we may never know, it wasn't God's timing for Jesus to go to the feast. His brothers can go whenever they want. They aren't on God's timetable, but Jesus is. So in a very loose sense, Jesus is saying, "You go on to the feast. I'll catch you later." So he's not talking about my time to die isn't here. He's saying my time to go to the feast hasn't yet. but he does end up going. So the curriculum calls this the brothers' selfish request. They urge Jesus to attend the feast, and that second one, it's not about his impending death. So don't worry about that. Why do you think they urge him to go with them to the feast? So that they could show him off and get in on that sort of celebrity. And they're trying to use him to get attention for themselves. And that's not that he's not going to do that. He's not going to allow that to happen. I think they're mocking him here. I mean, they're brothers. How many guys? Anybody have brothers? Yeah, the boys. Yeah, you make fun of each other, don't you? Yeah, it's just part of the deal. You probably wrestle and get into fights, and it's just part of the deal. And they're brothers, and that's what they're doing. That brotherly love hasn't changed all that much. And so I don't think that it has so much to do with his impending death or anything else that the curriculum is saying. Jesus' reasons for not going up to the feast yet. It's not his time to die. It's not his time to die, but I don't think that that's what's going on here. For whatever reason, God's saying wait. And he waits until God says go. And it wasn't his purpose to disrupt the city either, but I don't think that's it. I think that we don't know why he waited. But God told him to wait, and he waited. By the way, this reminds me of, this is what Jesus says, and then I'll tell that. Jesus said to them, "My time has not yet come, but your time is always here. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me because I testify about it that its works are evil. You go up to the feast. I am not going up to this feast, for my time has not fully come." After saying this, he remained in Galilee for a while, but then he went, because what he's saying is, God hasn't told me to go, and I'll go when God says. You know, I have a theological pet peeve that when somebody prays for something and God doesn't do it, they say, God didn't answer my prayer. But I don't think that's correct. Ella, if you asked if you could go get a drink of water, and I said no, would you say, why didn't you answer my question? No. Did I answer your question? I did. I said no. Sometimes when we pray and we ask for something, God says yes. Sometimes he says no. That's an answer to prayer. It's not the answer we wanted, but it's the answer. Sometimes he says wait. And that's also an answer. In this thing, it's not time for him to die. But this isn't. It isn't about that. It's about believing and following and obeying God. And Jesus always obeyed God, so he stayed put for a while. And when God said go, he went. So we're going to stop there. We'll pick up here tomorrow.